All right, fellas, I have to give you a bit of an uncomfortable truth here. Most of you guys are not stylish. And today, we're going to be talking about why you're not stylish and what you can do to fix that. What's up, you stylish storytellers? You know who it is, the Cat in the Hat, your resident fly guy, your chief architect, Michael Andrew of StyleArchitects.com, and welcome to A Dressing Room. If this is your first time here, welcome. Here on this channel, I invite you to step inside of yourself to try on some concepts in regards to self-awareness and style. And if they fit you, you will have the opportunity to step out and tell your story without saying a word. And if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified each and every time new content comes out. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Every time that I bring this concept or notion of a guy not having style up, they get defensive. And rightfully so. I get it. It is a hard thing to hear that you don't have style, especially when you are a well-dressed guy or you're up on all of the different types of trends. And that is the difference between understanding what your personal style is and then being a fashionable type of guy. You know that fashion is fleeting. You know that fashion is a trend. And so if you're following all of the fashion trends, you may be in their style, but that doesn't mean that you have created your own. So today we're going to be talking about how to do that in the most efficient and powerful way. All right, so if you were to ask the average guy, would you rather be liked or would you rather be respected? What do you think they would say? Go ahead and put some comments in the comments below and tell me what you would think. Now, from my perspective, it has been very clearly understood that most men want to be respected for their points of view, for their perspectives, and how they step into the world. And one of the best ways to be respected is to have a clear and definitive point of view. Now, the reality of it is everybody may not agree with your point of view and everybody may not even like it, but the more consistent and clear you are with it, the more people will align with it being associated with you. And that is something that they can respect because they know that there is integrity and intention behind how you're showing up. Well, when it comes to your personal style, oftentimes it's very easy to find yourself following what everybody else is doing instead of having your own clear point of view. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't change certain dynamics or certain aspects to fit situations or scenarios. And if you need some more insight on that, then make sure you check out my video on the acts every man will experience. And you can find that here or here. And so I'm not telling you that you aren't going to have some elements that aren't going to allow you to align with a given situation or perspective, but you should have something that is very clearly yours and how you want to show up. For instance, if you are a sartorial guy or if you are a well-dressed guy, that shouldn't change just because you're starting to hang out with cats who are a little bit more casual. That really would mean that your casual version is just going to be more elevated or dressed up than theirs. So instead of you throwing on t-shirts, jeans, and sneakers, you may throw on a great polo, a great pair of chinos, and or some dressier types of shorts and some loafers. And you can still make those funky and cool and unique while not deviating or submitting to whatever your homeboys or your peer group is expressing. And that's a way to make a clear, definitive statement without ever saying a word. Because if they're your homies, they're going to accept you as you are anyway. So the second reason why I often know when a man is very fashionable but doesn't have his own style is oftentimes they have way too much stuff. So just much like I was speaking about you having your own statement and style, your own clear, definitive point of view, a guy who has a plethora of elements for this perspective and a plethora of elements for this perspective and ultimately a very full closet usually is not saying much when it comes to his own personal style. And it's a very easy and common mistake to make, especially with guys telling you there are 5 things that every guy needs for this. There's 5 guys that every guy needs for this, right? And so you're going, because you're trying to follow rules, you're trying to be obedient, and you're going to get all these different elements that really don't reflect who you are. And this is the problem that I have with a lot of YouTubers, influencers, and magazines. When they're telling you there are 5 things that every guy should get, they're not properly providing you with context for what that means. Because if you're a preppy guy, there are going to be 5 things that are going to be beneficial for you to get that are not going to be beneficial for the guy who is a rocker type of guy or a guy who is streetwise ready, right? There are going to be different needs for different categories for how you're showing up. But when magazines or guys are telling you that these are 5 things that every guy needs, you buy into it. You believe it because you're just trying to dress better. You're trying to show up as the best version of yourself. But ultimately, all that ends up creating is clutter and confusion for how you're going to show up, because you have all of these disjointed items that don't ever work together to promote who you are and what you want to say. So the best way for you to do that is to, after you have a very clear understanding of who you are, to really hone in on what it is that you are seeking to say. I often tell a lot of guys who don't necessarily have a lot of money or resources that they're actually probably in a better position than a person who does, because they are forced to then think about what is going to be the most beneficial, the most utilitarian for how they want to move in different situations, and the most durable for their day-to-day usage of it, even if they're not going to use it. So if you don't have a lot of money, if you don't have a lot of resources, you actually may be in a much better position than the person who does, because you won't be as inclined to waste your money like the other person would. So the third reason I usually find that a guy does not really have his own style is because he hasn't made enough consistent and concise statements. So let's say you finally have decided to find something that is clear, right? You decide to make a statement, to draw your line in the stylish sand. And so then you have begin to consolidate your closet, to consolidate your wardrobe for a definitive point of view, and you've gotten rid of all the excess stuff that you haven't worn. And just a quick tip here if you want to do this. If you have not worn your item longer than a year, if it's been longer than a year since you've worn it outside of us being inside, then it's time for you to get rid of it, to sell it, to give it away, or to donate it. Because there's a strong likelihood that you do not really want to wear that item to begin with. So it's just great for you to get rid of that so you can create more clarity in what you want to say. So once you have that understanding, you have to show up like it. If you've ever read the 48 Laws of Power, then you know that one of the laws is that you have to assume a position of power, and soon others will submit to it. Well, it's not the same as faking it till you make it. It's actually putting yourself in enough practices where people align themselves with your perspective or align themselves with your belief in the statements that you have begun to put out. So just imagine the guy who may not be in a leadership role but shows up earlier before everybody else does, always looks professional, and is always willing to do the things that a lot of his coworkers or the people where he is looking to progress beyond aren't willing to do. Well, now he's assumed a position of power, a position of authority, and a position of leadership that is separating him in that dynamic. And in that same way, you being able to revisit the looks that make you feel the most empowered, the most attractive, and the most engaging are actually going to be the things that create that memorable style. Like, oh, that's the guy who always shows up well dressed, or that's the guy who always has the dope street type of look, but it always looks grown up. Or that's the guy who always has the nicest fabrics that I want to feel and that I want to be close to. You've created such a consistent experience for people that they then begin to promote who you are before you do. So that when somebody else sees you and they like, oh man, that dude doing too much. That dude think he fly. They can defend you without you even knowing it and say, no, he's always like that. He always shows up in this way with his best foot forward. And if you can do that, well, now you're ready to step out of the dressing room and begin to tell your story in style. So I want you to try this on. And if it fits you well, I want you to step out of the dressing room even more empowered to tell your story without saying a word. And if you're really serious about converting other people's style, other people's trends, and other people's fashion to really recreate something that is telling your story in style, then you need to give yourself an SOS. You need to give yourself a style of self evaluation to allow you to step into a dressing room of your own and begin telling your story in style. Also, you can check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/style architects, and that link will be in the bio so that you can begin joining my tailored tribe of storytellers in helping them develop and cultivate their own awareness and style. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And above all, don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind. So you, yes, you should always dress to express. I'll see you next time. Peace.